Witness the colossal boxing showdown nobody expected, live on Netflix. International superstar Jake Paul, the sport's most watched fighter, takes on Britain's two-time unified heavyweight world champion and Olympic gold medalist, Anthony A.J. Joshua, in the most dangerous and defining matchup of their careers. This is Judgment Day. Watch Jake Paul versus Anthony Joshua, Friday, December 19th at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, live on Netflix.
This episode is brought to you by Nespresso. Gift magical mornings with Nespresso Virtuo Pop. Compact and stylish, Virtuo Pop is made to meet every morning coffee craving. From espresso to coffee, hot or iced, at the click of a button. And celebrate the season with Nespresso's limited edition coffee flavors. Sweet almond and hibiscus, cinnamon and candied tamarind, and festive double espresso. Magic in the making. Shop the holiday gift collection exclusively at Nespresso.com.
Welcome into 49ers Access. My name is Sterling Bennett, and the San Francisco 49ers and Brandon Aiyuk have officially parted ways, or at least that's what the team is saying after placing him on the left the team list, effectively ending his 2025 season and likely his tenure with the Niners going forward. And I think it's safe to say this has been a disaster. Whether it was the negotiation period, whether it was the tactics done during the negotiation, and the fallout ever since, Aiyuk will not be a San Francisco 49er. He will never be a Niner again. He won't suit up this year. He won't suit up next year or with San Francisco, likely until his career is over, whenever that may be. However, that leads a lot of questions to be asked and hopefully answered in this video, because San Francisco now has to deal with, do they cut him? Do they trade him? And when do they get that done? It's not going to happen now. It'll likely happen come the offseason, but there's so much to take in with what money, moves, trade partners comes with getting rid of Brandon Aiyuk and cutting off and severing the tie of what has become the probably worst move of the franchise, of the regime, in the last 20 years or so, which is pretty crazy because despite how good the Niners have been in regards to record, playoff success, and their late draft day moves, they've had some head scratchers. Trey Lance, Dee Ford, and now Brandon Aiyuk belongs in that category as one of the biggest mistakes this regime has made since 2017. That said, gonna dive into what Spotrac released over the weekend, detailing when San Francisco can make this move, the money they can save, and why a trade or release is likely. And to begin the show, you have to start off with the original contract signed last offseason by San Francisco and Brandon Aiyuk. It was a 4-year, $120 million contract extension. The deal came with $45 million guaranteed at signing, but $76 million locked in for practical purposes based on vesting triggers. Those guarantees consist of $24 million in 2024, that being last year. 2025 had about $24.8, almost $25 million in compensation, and $27 million next year in 2026. San Francisco voided 2026 and on, leaving not a lot left, but a big chunk left for San Francisco to free up. But of that $76 million, almost $50 million has already been paid to Brandon Aiyuk. He secured, again, $24.125 million in 2024, which included a $23 million signing bonus. This year, for Aiyuk, although he's never played a game, he hasn't really practiced once and will not be ever again, he earned over $24 million this season, basically neglecting his recovery and making himself a lot of enemies in the process. He didn't get his $750,000 per game active bonus, nor his $100,000 workout bonus. All of that was not earned for obvious reasons. So essentially, the Niners have paid Brandon Aiyuk $48.15 million for 7 games. That includes 25 catches and no touchdowns over the last 2 seasons. It's a lot of numbers, but think of it this way. $50 million for 2 years for 25 receptions, no touchdowns in only 7 games. That's terrible. That's horrible, and it goes to show you why this deal sucks. It's a travesty, but what comes next? Because San Francisco already voided his 2026 guarantees, right? It's off the books. It's done. Aiyuk said, I'm not going to fight it. I'm not going to deal with it. So what does that mean? That means $27 million of Aiyuk's 2026 compensation. So next year's guarantees, that's his base salary, his option bonus, his per game active bonus, and his workout bonus. Those became guaranteed this April. When San Francisco voided those guarantees, it took it off the books essentially and said, nope, we're voiding it, and basically made the remaining $85.1 million of his contract, of his $120 million contract that was signed, it made 85 of that $1 million unsecured and opened to being off the books through 2028. Okay? So that brings us to what happens next. What is San Francisco going to do? Because they don't have many options. It's either you release him, you trade him, but it really all comes down to when you release him, when you trade him, that has the biggest financial ramifications on their books going forward and could be a big indication as to what San Francisco's plans are in the offseason and who they can sign, trade, or acquire to help improve their roster in what they believe is going to be a hopeful window reopening period for them. They're 10-4 now. Could be 11-4 after Monday's game against the Colts. But on top of that, they're thinking we can go all in now in 2026 and 27 with Aiyuk's money off the books in the near future. So what are their options? Let's start off with the outright release of no team is probably going to trade for Brandon Aiyuk's deal. The only way you can maybe discuss a trade of Brandon Aiyuk is if you are giving draft pick compensation away to have another team take him. Whether it be the Commanders, who are a likely destination for Aiyuk once he's gone. Maybe it is the Chicago Bears. Maybe it is, the Kansas City Chiefs, who need a wide receiver. And if Aiyuk can bounce back in some capacity, which may or may not happen, the odds would say no, but you never know. Aiyuk will probably be released knowing that it's not impossible, but unlikely he gets traded this offseason. So starting off with the most likely end result for Brandon Aiyuk, it is an outright release. And we know this. The relationship is done. Aiyuk's posting on social media. His brand's posting on social media. See you later. We're done. He's out there basically saying in what has become a deciphering moment for the fan base of trying to make sense of his last Instagram post. You can really dive into that as a shot towards the organization. Maybe it is. I don't know. But a release before June 1st of next year without a post-June 1st designation means San Francisco would take on nearly $30 million in dead cap all at once. San Francisco leads the NFL in dead cap this season. That trend would at least, although not continue, they'd be high up on that list again in 2026 by cutting Aiyuk without a June 1st designation. This is essentially the ripping the Band-Aid off all at once move, this, washing your hands, freeing yourself of what has been a disastrous contract for the organization. No trade, no post-June 1st designation. This is just get it done, It's going to be painful, but the sooner you can walk away and rinse yourself of this deal, the better type of transaction. If they were to do that, taking on a $29.5 million dead cap hit without a post-June 1st designation, they would essentially lose $14.2 million in cap space, but it would have a bigger future, improvement in cap by freeing up $41.4 million in 2027. So essentially do you want to take it all next year and maybe lessen your chances of making a big move in free agency, repaying some of the guys you have to pay, which aren't many, but still, or paying some of your draft class and just saying, nope, get it done now. We'll eat it now and pay the consequences up front. That way it helps us in 2027. Because at that point, if you do that, you can free up $41.4 million in 2 years. That to me seems likely. That to me seems like it is the most beneficial for San Francisco, knowing that you can always redo deals like Bosa's, like Trent's, like McCaffrey's, and maybe even to some degree redoing Purdy, Kittle, and Warner, even though those deals were just signed this offseason to help free up some money and maybe buy you some more cap space in smaller in-house moves than maybe an outhouse move? An out-of-organizational move is how I'll word that, I guess. Don't want to get into the outhouse conversation 10 minutes into the show. But that also sets the table for a big offseason in 2027 for the San Francisco Giants, once they may have to have life without Christian McCaffrey or Trent, who is 36, 37, and in 2 years would probably be retiring, which might be what they want to do, having their future in mind, not the present in mind. The next option, which to me is the least likely of the bunch, having already said it a handful of times, is a pre-June 1st trade of Brandon Aiyuk. Again, a trade seems very unlikely. And a trade pre-June 1st carries the same dead cap hit as a release. So you'd still have the $29.5 million dead cap hit on your books. Now, the obvious reason you'd want to do this would be trying to get some draft pick compensation in return. Again, maybe a team like Kansas City, who may not have Mahomes now for a large chunk of next year, or a team like the Commanders, who are saying, you know what, we can get Aiyuk a year off injury. He wants to play with Jaden Daniels. Let's not let him go on the open market. Let's get a guy and redo his contract. You'd still take on the entire dead cap hit, but maybe you can still get a 5th round draft pick back, a 6th round draft pick back, and say, you know what, it's still a big loss of financials of what we believe to be an elite wide receiver, but getting a 6th round pick back is better than nothing, right? Especially if you're going to release him anyways, why not get a 6th round pick in return? I do think there is a world that a team would do this, only if San Francisco agrees to eat part of the money. You see it happen in baseball a lot of the time. You see it happen in football some of the time. I think maybe a deal where it's like Aiyuk and a 7th rounder goes to Washington for a 6th round draft pick or a 5th round draft pick while San Francisco eats some of the contract. I do think that could be on the table. Now, again, super unlikely. There's much more into that than simply just what I'm telling you. But if they were to trade Aiyuk pre-June 1st, trying to get back some draft capital for next year's draft, it would cost the same, but maybe you can find some small compensation in return, which might make the blow a little better, instead of just saying, sayonara, we'll see you later, and it kind of ending that relationship as soon as possible. And finally, although not unlikeliest deal, or unlikeliest option, it is not the likeliest option, but it is an option that San Francisco could look to take into account, leading into what will be a severing of the ties of Aiyuk and the Red and Gold, which is a post-June 1st designation release. This is the final and third option we have today on the board for the Niners and Brandon Aiyuk. And this one is tricky because San Francisco only gets 2 post-June 1st releases each offseason. Now, one does not come to mind where you're thinking of, well, they already have 2 in place ready to go. Maybe Jake Brendel is part of this grouping. We'll see how the year goes. They seem to like him a lot, but you just think of guys under contract that don't have too many years left that maybe can save you some money. Brendel might fall into that category, but they clearly see him as a valuable piece of the offense, which is unfortunate, but here we are. And nobody else truly comes to mind. Nobody else is signed to big deals. Nobody else is under contract that isn't in the core grouping of guys like Fred and Purdy and Kittle and McCaffrey and Trent and, I don't know, Lenore and guys like that. They're not paying a wide receiver a lot of money. But this is one where it depends on what San Francisco's plan is. Do they want to take a huge dead cap hit in year one, like a pre-June 1st designation would indicate, or are they more open to kind of cutting that up, and kind of taking it in 2 separate years, making the blow less per season, but lasting 2 years instead of 1 full year? It's tough because you can release a player.
Here's my 30-second story with Guinness. As soon as my sister and I get home for the holidays, we don't even unpack. We head straight to our pub. The bartender already knows our order, Guinness and fries. We laugh all night, catch up with old friends, and walk home with faces sore from smiling. It's one of my favorite nights of the year. That was my 30-second story with Guinness.
Guinness Draft Stout. Please enjoy responsibly. Imported by Diageo Beer Company, USA, New York, New York.
This episode is presented by State Farm. Having insurance isn't the same as having State Farm. It's like needing the protection of an offensive guard on the football field, but getting an elementary school crossing guard. Sure, they're both guards, but you can only trust one to keep your quarterback safe when the game is on the line. So don't settle for just any insurance when there's State Farm. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Immediately, with a post-June 1st designation, he can go into free agency. Nothing truly changes for Aiyuk in this case, right? Nothing really changes for San Francisco either when it comes to their ability to sign guys. Money doesn't really open on the books. Again, it doesn't change much from a plan standpoint or a activity standpoint in the offseason. It just means that you're getting more money off your books at a later point in the offseason compared to free agency and the draft, which you kind of saw this year with San Francisco not really being active on the trade market or the free agency market. It was guys like Luke Farrell and redoing Kyle Juszczyk's deal and, signing Jason Pinnock and guys like that. You'd probably see a similar offseason to that in 2026 where it's like they aren't super active, they have a little bit of money to spend, and they're kind of just trying to fix the fringes of the roster rather than taking a huge dead cap hit, pushing off the free agency stuff and saying, look, 2026, high-end draft class, get a bunch of bargain bin dudes, and then kind of make way for 2027, which is what you do with a pre-June 1st designation. But a post-June 1st designation allows you to cut Aiyuk, sever those ties at the beginning of the new league year, but that cut will not fully process until after June 1st, meaning that San Francisco would need to carry Aiyuk's full $15.4 million cap hit into June. Then after June 1st, they take a dead cap hit of $13.3 million in 2026 and another $21.2 million dead cap hit in 2027. So to kind of make this all simple, a pre-June 1st release means you take the loss up front, all the dead cap hit hits you in 2026. A trade of Aiyuk pre-June 1st, hoping to get some draft pick compensation, is the exact same thing as a pre-June 1st release, but in this case, you'd get some draft picks or one draft pick in return for Aiyuk instead of nothing and having a big dead cap hit in 2026. And a post-June 1st release of Aiyuk means you can kind of cut up the losses of money over 2 years and then not getting any draft pick compensation in return, but you have to carry over that $15 million dead cap hit through June, which may hinder you somewhat in who you can sign in the early stages of free agency leading into OTAs and training camp. Again, if you're doing math in your head, what's 13.3 plus 21.2? It is basically around, if you have all the money right, what is that? $34 million, right? You're basically cutting it in half and kind of taking 1/3 in the front, then 2/3 in the back, if you will. It kind of just sucks. It's the way things are. It's the way things, have kind of been for the last couple of weeks of like not knowing where the Niners are at. And if you look at it from a post June 1st cut point of view, they'll free up around $2 million if they cut him after June 1st, which it depends on what San Francisco wants to do. Do you want to lose $14 million in cap space, cutting him in a pre-June 1st transaction, and then gain a lot more on the back end? Or do you want to do a post-June 1st cut, free up $2 million early, and then a little bit less later, but take dead cap hits in the 2 consecutive years? It's hard to kind of delineate. It's hard to dive into. It's hard really to discuss. You don't see many suitors for Aiyuk out there wanting on his contract, so a trade's unlikely. And it does feel like San Francisco's probably, it would probably be smart to go ahead and take this pre-June 1st cap hit, take it all up front and say, you know what, whatever, like this is what we got to do. Right now, San Francisco is projected to have roughly, according to overthecap.com, which is a great place, they're likely to have about $34.6 million in dead cap. So if they cut Aiyuk, they're going to lose $14 million, meaning they're going to walk into the offseason with about 20, but they're going to gain a whole lot in 2027. So that feels like what I would do. They're in the red right now in 2027 with guys on their books. So, personally, I think cutting him pre-June 1st is the move to go. Just take the dead cap hit, move on, cut your losses, unless a team will make a deal. I do not think it is smart for this team to take dead cap hits in back-to-back years for a guy not on the roster. I don't want to do that. I wouldn't do that. Take your losses up front and move on. It's almost like you're in a relationship with a boyfriend or a girlfriend or a spouse, and it's like, hey, do you want the lingering effects of this to continue, or do you want to sever that tie and move on as fast as possible? Sometimes those things are hard to do. Sometimes it's a mental challenge. In this case, for San Francisco, it'll be a financial hurdle. That is the cost of doing business, and that is the cost of a terrible negotiation where San Francisco deserves some blame. Aiyuk has, for whatever reason, lost his mind. They both deserve blame in this case, but those are your 3 options. Cut him pre-June 1st, trade him pre-June 1st, and lose a lot of money up front, but also gain a lot towards the back end, or cut him post-June 1st and free up a little bit of money in both years while also taking a dead cap hit in both years as well. San Francisco needs a wide receiver, though. And then the question becomes, what do you do with that money? And the answer is, I don't know. San Francisco's defense is basically done. They got a bunch of guys under contract, right? All their cornerbacks are under contract. Stout, Green, and Lenore. They have to improve there. Green's not been great in year 2. We know that. Stout has shown flashes, but he's a rookie. He'll make mistakes. The safeties have been really bad at times, like unplayably bad, but also I would earmark a draft pick for a safety. Pinnock will probably be gone in the offseason. You have Brown, you have Mustafa. They're under contract for 1 more year. Mustafa, I think, has 2 more years on his deal, being this his 2nd season. So right now, at least on paper, your entire starting secondary is back. Your entire starting linebacking core is back, and your entire starting assumed defensive line is back, minus Jordan Elliott, who you can replace in the draft. you don't have many guys to sign. The guys you're losing in the offseason are Yetur Gross-Matos, who you got Keon White for a reason. Goodbye, YGM. You may lose Aiyuk, or you're going to lose Aiyuk. That's the whole point of the show today. He's gone. He hasn't played all year. No impact there. You got Kyle Juszczyk. Purdy's under contract. CMC is signed. Maybe Brian Robinson's a guy you want to bring back, but I don't know. He's not going to go for a lot of money, but San Francisco drafted Jordan James. He hasn't played all year. All that to say, your receiver room next year is kind of thin. It's Pearsall, who has shown flashes to be awesome, but is not consistent at all with the injuries he's had. He's hurt again. Who knows if he plays against the Colts on Monday? Then you're losing Jauan Jennings. You're losing Kendrick Bourne. It's Pearsall, Cowing, who hasn't played all season, Demarcus Robinson, Jordan Watkins, who can't see the field yet. Shanahan said he has to prove himself first. That isn't a good sign for a young receiver as things stand now. And it's Junior Burgeon on your practice squad. Not promising. Maybe you earmark some of the money you're going to get back from Aiyuk's deal into re-signing guys like Jauan Jennings, who has been tremendous for you this offseason. Do you reopen those contract negotiations? I know right now I certainly would. Jauan's been awesome. He's played through injury. I know there's been some spats on and off the field, but guys want to get paid, and if he feels like he earns $20 million a year, maybe you open that up again. That seems too expensive for me, but I don't know. You lose, like you're saving money from Aiyuk while also losing some on the back end with the dead money cap hit you'll have to pay. But I don't know. The Niners are in a bind. Do you want to spend a first-round draft pick on a wide receiver? Like, you have a lot of dudes locked into contracts on your roster, cheap and expensive. You don't have many positions to improve or fill. You have draft picks you want to spend on the defensive line, in your secondary, getting a safety, drafting a wide receiver, fortifying your offensive line some more. You probably want to bring back Spencer Burford as your left guard or replace him altogether. I don't know. But you think, if you're drafting players, it's wide receiver, safety, cornerback, defensive line, defensive tackles, and offensive linemen. You have 6 positions of need, if you will, or at least desire. You're going to have some money to spend. Where do you want to spend it? Do you want to pay Jauan Jennings? There really isn't a big-name wide receiver out there that I think San Francisco would be all in on. You're not going to go get Tyreek Hill. You're not going to go get T. Higgins. San Francisco might feel burned on paying wide receivers. Debo wasn't a great contract. He didn't play up to par for 2 to 3 years of his deal. Ayuk didn't play at all, basically, through his 4-year contract. They may feel burned, and it may not just lead to Aiyuk being gone. It could lead to Jauan Jennings also being gone, which the way he's playing now might be a bigger loss than Aiyuk ever has been, which sucks. You're hoping and praying Aiyuk gets healthy. I know fans don't feel that way at times towards him, but San Francisco has 3 options for him. Cut him pre-June 1st, cut him post-June 1st, or try to figure out a trade with somebody before the draft next year. Which one of those do you want to do? Do you want a pre-June 1st trade and say, yeah, give me a draft pick and just say goodbye? Cut ties, cut your losses, and see what you can get back in return? Or are you saying, screw that, I don't care what they get back in return, just get this guy off my team as fast as you can? Or are you saying, hold on now, let's be smart, let's kind of be patient, if you will, and let's see how this thing plays out and cut him post-June 1st, and let's take smaller dead cap hits each year for the next 2 seasons, and, maybe it can help fortify some roster spots elsewhere and kind of get us some much-needed depth in 2026 and 2027. But drop those comments down below. Hope you enjoyed the mid-season shorter version of the podcast, and as we say goodbye to Brandon Aiyuk, not official just yet, but pretty much official by San Francisco 49ers standards. Drop those comments down below. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe on the audio podcasting platforms. Leave us that 5-star review. Would you cut Aiyuk? Would you trade Aiyuk? When would you do it? And is there a player you are marking when you're eyeing for this team to replace him with? Is it Pearsall? Is it Jauan Jennings? Or is it spending a first-round draft pick on a wide receiver in the upcoming 2026 NFL draft. Guys like Mekhi Lemon come to mind from USC, or even Kobe Lane, a 6'4", 210-pound wide receiver junior out of USC. Those two guys might fit San Francisco's play style a lot, but time will tell as the season goes on. But as of now, Aiyuk is gone from our brains. He's done. He's no longer in here unless he somehow finds a way to make an ass of himself once again this season. But he's done. We can wash our hands of him in San Francisco until the official deal happens sometime in the offseason. San Francisco has bigger fish to fry. Colts on Monday, then in 2 weeks it's against Chicago, prime time, then against the Seahawks to end the regular season. 3 pivotal games coming up. 1 win clinches a playoff spot for San Francisco. Take care of business, get in the playoffs, and hopefully salvage what has been a oddly somewhat successful season. You're 10-4. It's hard to hate where San Francisco's at, but it's a good building block season for this team. And right now, Micah Parsons done. Christian Watson injured. The NFC's wide open. This team still has a lot of fight left in them. And hopefully on Monday against the Colts and Grandpa Phillip Rivers, things can go their way once again. Stay tuned for the preview episode of that game coming later this week. And as always, my name is Sterling Bennett. And until next time, stay faithful.